is the theme to the show. The show is all about you. Not you, but you and your stories. Because everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Brought to you by JeffSeltzer.com.
Hello and welcome to Everybody's a Story with Jeff Seltzer. I'm your host, Jeff Seltzer, and this is once again my own personal midlife crisis. Some people go out and buy expensive cars or leave their wife, or some do both. Me, I just started a podcast, and here we are. Thanks again for joining. I appreciate everybody listening and watching every week as you do. I do want to start off by saying thank you to everybody who sent some kind words and notes from last week. Obviously, last week's show was a little more difficult for me because of the recent passing of a buddy of mine. Obviously, it's tough, and every week it doesn't necessarily get that much easier, but, trying to get used to it, I guess, just recognize the fact that, unfortunately, my buddy's not going to be around anymore. Just live through the memories and think about the great times we had together. So, but again, thank you everyone who reached out and said the kind words that you guys did. I have had a few notes over the last few weeks asking more about personal finance. I don't want to dig too deep into it because I'm sure there's probably a certain niche of my listeners and watchers who are interested in it, but others who are probably rolling their eyes and saying, none of this matters, so who really cares? So what I wanted to do was bring up one specific thing of personal finance that I work on, which is Bitcoin. So a number of people have asked me, hey, Jeff, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin? Do you think it's the future? Do you think it's worthless? What do you think? I would say the answer is probably yes, yes, and yes. So what I'm about to say probably sounds like it's coming out of both sides of my mouth, but work with me on this one. First thing I'm going to say is I don't believe in Bitcoin. I think it's silly. I don't really understand it. I don't think it's real. It's like if I were to go out and make up a Jeff coin and then start selling it, and then all of a sudden people are like, hey, there's a value to it. Like, why? Why would that have a value to it? And what does that even mean? Versus like gold or the dollar or whatever else like that, which is backed by something else, right? Gold is a physical asset that has a value. And the US dollar is backed by the US Treasury, which, has a lot of credibility behind it. Right. Bitcoin is something that somebody at some point decades ago somehow created on a computer. People went out and mined it, whatever that means. And then it has a value, and now it's worth like $117,000 per Bitcoin. Like, what does it even mean? So again, back to my original comment, I don't believe in it. I don't think it's really real, and I don't love it. With that said, I do have about 1% of my assets in Bitcoin. Again, the question would be, why would you buy that much Bitcoin if you don't believe in it? So I look at Bitcoin as almost like a lottery ticket. So it's 1% of my assets. So if it were to fall into zero and be useless, I've only really gone down by 1%. So it's not really a huge loss. On the flip side, like a lottery ticket, you buy it and it could go up significantly. So I started buying Bitcoin about a year and a half ago, and it's more than doubled in the last year and a half. So while I don't believe in it, it has done well for me, and I guess for anybody else who's invested in the last year and a half in it. Do I suggest you go buy Bitcoin? I don't know. You do whatever you want to do. I'd need to know more about your portfolio and your overall strategy. But for me, it's worked pretty well over the last year and a half, and hopefully it skyrockets more. I'm not continuing to buy any more Bitcoin, but at the same time, like I said, it's more than doubled since I first bought into it. So there's something there. Any personal finance questions or anything else that you want to get into, definitely shoot me a note or send me a DM at Instagram at Everybody Has a Story Pod. My personal Instagram is at Seltzer77. The show's TikTok is at Everybody Has a Story Pod. The YouTube channel for the show is at Everybody Has a Story Pod. If you want to email the show directly, you can email the show at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. For all things Jeff Seltzer, you can always check me out over at jeffseltzer.com. And as I mentioned before, I do have a new website for the show. Still not sure what to do with it yet. But the website for the show is, not a surprise, everybodyhasastorypod.com. As a reminder, this show is available on all podcast platforms, video on YouTube and Spotify, audio on YouTube, Spotify, and everywhere else. With that said, I did want to introduce my two guests for this week. One of them is a 3-time guest. The other one is making his debut. I'd like to welcome my buddies, Jon and Rich. Boys, how are we doing today?
Thanks for having us.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. First time listener, first time caller.
I appreciate that. Somebody's been watching his sports radio these days. Exactly. So we've already talked to Jon in the past. I believe we talked to him about Halloween Horror Nights last year, as well as the end of the year, we talked the best movies. Rich, this is your first time, so would you mind giving us a little spiel on who is Rich?
Sure. Rich Kappler, 43 years old. I'm a Leo, if you believe in any of that. I do not, but I currently work in the TV business as I have for a long time. I was a film major way back at Connecticut College, go Camels, a long time ago. And I'm a huge Oasis fan, which is what brings us to today, I think. So
very cool. And ladies, he may be single, so if you want to slide into his DMs, there he is.
DMs are open.
DMs are wide open. And John, like we've said, obviously you are a longtime listener as well as a longtime guest. That would be John Germain. He also is, just to reiterate, the one who created the graphics for this show. So some of the really cool graphics, the logo and such like that, that'd be Mr. John Germain. So John, as always, thank you for all the hard work that you do.
Nice.
Happy to help.
Of course. So as you guys can all see by the topic and the notes for the show, the idea is traveling to London to go see Oasis. So before getting into the actual topic of the show, I wanted to go back a little bit. So Rich, John, you guys are both in your, let's say, early to mid 40s. And you are lifelong friends for the most part, right? Like you guys have known each other for like forever at this point, correct?
Yeah, we met when we were 10.
You were 10.
So,
that's a long time ago, right?
I think we're coming up on 33 years next month. We met in 5th grade, if you can believe it.
That's crazy. Since the late 1900s, huh?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep, exactly. I moved to a new town and was placed in a math class with John Germain. So that's how it started.
A class which Rich excelled at very quickly, and I continued to fail at, if you could believe that.
I'm sure you did great, John. I mean, eventually you graduated high school, you graduated college, and here you are. So I'm sure whatever it was, it worked out for you for the best. So you guys have known each other now for 33 years or so, you just said. So over the years, you guys have both been huge music fans, right? So I know I've gone to concerts with both of you over the years. Obviously, I kind of, I became friends with John, I would say back in like 2017, 2018. Rich, a little more recent than that, I met you through John. But you guys, I assume, have been going to concerts probably for decades before you knew I existed, right?
Yeah, that's true. John is more of a music aficionado than I am, but I'm much more I like less bands than John does, I guess. But when we like bands, we go all in on them, like always.
I'm a snob, and Rich just comes for the enjoyment of it. And we've been doing it for, like you said, Jeff, decades at this point. And we've seen a lot of really amazing shows over the last 25 years, probably longer.
Yeah, we probably started going to concerts together once we had our licenses, so like 1999 or something.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the first concert you ever went together to?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Red Hot Chili Peppers, Foo Fighters 2000.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. We got in a car accident on the way home, right?
We certainly did.
Not too bad. Just a little fender bender.
Fender bender. We were not driving. We were not driving, and our driver was hit from behind and then hit somebody in front of him.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So first of all, obviously unfortunate that your first concert together ended the way that it did. But I'm sure you guys have had much, let's say, better endings to concerts you've been to. Was that the PNC Arts Center, that first show you guys went to together?
Sure was.
Yep. Lawn seats or
Oh, we were very, very poor young men. So yes, of course, lawn seats.
Okay, very good. Got it.
We were only like 17, so our backs could handle sitting on the lawn back then.
That's fair. For me at 47, I couldn't do the lawn or even general admission standing at this point.
No.
I'm well beyond that at this point. Okay, so you guys have gone to multiple concerts, many concerts together over the years, with the first one being Red Hot Chili Peppers and the Foo Fighters. Take a few years before that, because it does look like on screen, John says, or John claims anyway, that he's been an Oasis fan since 1994. So for those that aren't aware, Oasis started out, they're a British band, a British duo of brothers. I mean, I wasn't familiar with them before the 90s. They were big when I was in high school, I want to say, maybe early college, which was around 94. Do you know their origins? Or, I mean, obviously they're brothers, but do you know if they were like big in Europe before they were big here, or kind of like anything about their backstory?
You want to take that, John, or you want me to go?
Rich might know better than I, but yeah, they sort of started out, I want to say 1991-ish. Their first huge album came out in 1994. Is that right, Rich?
Yeah, definitely maybe it was 94.
And the reason I say fan sense is, if you guys remember, Rich being an MTV a member of the MTV family for many decades at this point now, they would have promos over and over again. And I remember them having a promo for, 5 songs at a time, which were the hot hits of the week or whatever. And Live Forever, the song by Oasis, their first really, really big hit, kept playing over and over again. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, what a great song. And I would watch that video over and over again because I loved the song. And 30 something years later, still love that song. So that's sort of my origin story of listening to Oasis. So I remember that first album and really, really enjoying that song and not really knowing much else beyond that. And then, of course, What's the Story, Morning Glory, coming in 1995, if I'm not mistaken, and just being a massive hit in both England and in America. But Rich may know better than I, just because he is a bigger fan than I am.
Yeah, no, I mean that all sounds right. I'm not their biographer, but in eighth grade was 95. We were both in eighth grade in 95, 96, and that's when What's the Story, Morning Glory was really blowing up with Wonderwall and Champagne Supernova. And then one of our friends, this guy Nick DeSpagna, was always walking around the halls singing Live Forever and Supersonic, and I didn't know those songs yet, not even through John, I guess. And so he got me hooked on those songs. So I'll never forget, like, the day of my eighth grade graduation, going to the music store with, when you barely had any money, and buying Definitely Maybe. I didn't buy What's the Story, Morning Glory until afterwards, but it was like, that was Oasis's like big, huge moment. They were huge in America for like just a couple of years, but they were always bigger in the UK.
Was that cassette or CD that you bought at that time?
I bought a CD. Yeah, at that point I was a CD boy.
Okay.
I think we were too old for cassettes, right, Rich? We were.
Yeah, by the time
cusp.
Yeah, by the time I started collecting music again in like 95, it was CDs were the rage. You could still buy either one, but we kind of knew CD was the future.
Yeah. Gotcha. I was going to say, I worked in a Sam Goody from 96 to 97, and it was predominantly CDs, but they did still have some cassette tapes at that time. It was basically like mostly CDs, some cassette tapes, obviously still VHS because DVD didn't take over for a couple more years.
Yeah.
And that was basically predominantly what it was supposed to be, like posters, much of like this, dumb t-shirts and merch and stuff like that. So that was Sam Goody, a store that definitely got put out of business by, I don't know, streaming, I guess at this point, but that's another story altogether. So, okay. So at this point, you've both listened to obviously all the Oasis that has made it to the States. Everything was fantastic. You loved it. And I know in talking to you guys in our conversations that you've seen Oasis at least once, I guess, in the early 2000s. Is that correct?
Yeah, we were talking when we were on the trip. We've never seen Oasis together for whatever reason. So Oasis, like, they were huge up until like 97, 98, and then they kind of fell off. And I fell off a little bit with them. And one summer in like 2002, a buddy of mine came by my house and was like, hey, do you want to come see Oasis at Radio City Music Hall? They're playing with the Black Crowes. It was called the Tour of Brotherly Love because they're both music groups of brothers who hate each other, I guess, right? That's Black Crowes deal too.
Greatest tour name ever.
And John, you went to a different night of that same tour, right?
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
And so I went, and even though Oasis wasn't, they were like that, they weren't the headliners, and they played a lot of weird B-sides that I wasn't into yet, but I was still like really reminded of how much I loved them. So I was like, oh, I'm getting back in, and I got back into them, and I bought their 4th album, which I love, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. And then just really got into them hard through college. Like, I would soundtrack all of my films, the student films I made with Oasis tunes. It's not legal, so you can't look it up anywhere. And then it kind of peaked. The last time I saw them was 2006 or 2008. I think it was 2006. And John, again, you couldn't come to that show for some reason. So your younger brother came, and it was at Madison Square Garden. And it was one of the best concerts I've ever been to, like just standing up, singing every word to every song with the whole crowd. And I was like so transfixed and was so like, again, one of my top 5 favorite concerts I've ever been to.
Nice. And Rich, we'll contrast that to when the 3 of us saw Weird Al Yankovic and we all sat down the entire show, but knew every single word to every song he was singing, which was fantastic.
Yeah. I'm happy to sit down at most shows.
It was one of the greatest experiences in a concert in my life, I think, ever, just sitting down for the whole show.
So my trajectory is a little different, but kind of funny. And Rich always tells this story, which makes me laugh because I always forget about it.
Yeah.
Is, again, the first time I ever saw them, same tour, probably the same week, where it was like 2001, 2002, where they were playing with Black Crowes. And they were great, but as Rich said, they didn't do the hits. And we were kind of like, all right, that's fine. And again, you couldn't really find them in the States after that because they weren't, on fire anymore. But the funny thing was that Noel, the lead singer slash writer, I guess the secondary singer slash writer of all the songs, did a solo tour. And Rich and I got tickets, and I was all set to go until Rich, what happened?
I believe your wife had to go into emergency labor with your twin sons, right?
So
She was not due for a while.
She was not due for another month, but the boys were kicking down the door and coming out. So I did not go that night. So Rich saw Noel all by himself, or did you find somebody else? I can't remember.
I ran into my friend Billy Fiacos, who's the same guy that brought me to the show at Radio City years ago.
Nice.
And we hung out and reconnected at the Noel Gallagher show, and it was great.
So did Noel play mostly Oasis songs or other stuff, or what?
Like a mix, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he has a band called High Flying Birds, and he would play the songs from Oasis that he sings, because he sings on a couple of them, even though he writes pretty much most of them, at least the early stuff. So yeah, he would kind of mix it up. And I should say another thing is, really quickly, me and John had tickets to see Oasis at some point in like the early 2000s in New York City. My memory's hazy because the concert didn't happen. The Gallagher brothers got in like a bad car accident in like a taxi in New York City. Like a taxi ran into their car and they got hurt and they had to cancel the show. So me and John were kind of like, I don't want to say cursed because your sons were born, so that's not a curse. But like we had plenty of times where we were going to see Oasis together 3 different times and never got around to it. So it was kind of like we needed to finally close the loop.
Got it. So after almost like, most of your life as fandom, and obviously you experienced them in different ways separately, like it kind of built up to like you were hoping that one day you could see the two of them, you could see Oasis perform with the two of you together, right? That's kind of the lifelong goal at this point, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So let's fast forward a number of years, and now we're fast forwarding to, I guess, 2024, right? So we're post-COVID. Concerts are back on, a lot of pent-up demand, lots of excitement. Potentially the Gallagher brothers are getting along again, maybe. Who knows? Allegedly, it could be happening. All of a sudden, the news comes out that Oasis is going to have a huge reunion show in London, England at Wembley Stadium, right?
Yeah, they were going to tour the UK at that point. They had said they didn't say anything about a world tour. We just knew they were going to play a bunch of shows around the United Kingdom.
So when you see this news, you're kind of thinking back, I assume, like, hey, this is maybe fate, or maybe this is something we have to do, or kind of like, where both your heads at? Because obviously London isn't as easy to get to as, let's say, MetLife or Philly. So like, when you find out the news, is one of you like, this sounds fantastic, let's go to Europe? The other one's like, yeah, I don't leave New Jersey, or kind of like, what's the mentality here?
I'm trying to remember. I'm the one that doesn't like to travel and doesn't like to leave New Jersey. But sometimes there are things in life where you're going to get a kick in the butt and be like, you have to go and do this or you're going to regret it. Even if I just get a lot of like stress and anxiety around traveling. But I don't remember the exact sequence of events, but I feel like one of us texted the other and was like, hey, if we can get tickets, we should think about going.
So it's very funny the way it happened because, as you said, Jeff, it was a year ago this month, actually. We were hearing whispers of they're getting back together, and we've kind of, we've heard that before where you're like, oh, sure, whatever. But finally it goes up and they're like, yeah, they're going to do England. And Rich goes, should we do it? And I have 3 kids. I have a wife. I have, all the crazy stuff at home. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I have to do this. We have to do this together because it's so crazy to go see that band that we love for 30 plus years together. We have to do it. So on my family calendar, before we even get tickets, on my family calendar, which all my, my wife and my daughter can see, I put Oasis concert, blah, 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 July, whatever date it was. And I walk in the room about 2 hours later and it must have popped up on my wife's calendar. And she's like, oh, you're going to London with Rich to see Oasis, huh? And I'm like, I know, it sounds crazy. What do you think? She's like, you have to do that. If you guys can get tickets, you absolutely have to do that. And I was like, okay. So Rich won the lottery, of course, because these days you can't just get tickets. Rich won the lottery in the UK. I won the lottery in the US afterwards, after, of course, we learned that they were going to play a world tour and that they were going to be at MetLife, which we were going to in 2 short weeks, which we were excited about. But it was basically Rich going like, you want to do this? And I said, yeah, we have to. and that just kind of pushed our butts to kind of like push this ahead and make it work.
Yeah, I think I was gonna just buy them anyway and figure it out on the other side. Like, even if I had to go by myself, I think I probably would have done it because, again, I needed a good reason to travel. I'd never been to London. John had never either. We always heard about Wembley as being this iconic stadium, and Live Aid was there. It's a different stadium, but it's the same location. And the British fans just seem like this next level of fandom than America. And it's like, this is one of their bands, right? Like, this is the band that, like, they love them in Manchester, obviously, but throughout the UK. So it was like, yeah, I woke up one morning after putting in for the lottery, never thinking I would get it. And I thought the email was fake, where it was like, hey, you won the lottery, you can go get tickets. And I was like, what? And so I didn't even tell John. I don't think until after I like secured them, because I was like, let me just see if I can get it, because I was really feeling like something was going to go wrong. So I'm at work, but I'm home, and I log on at the right time. And when you get into the queue, it usually says like, hey, you're 35,000 or 100,000th in line. Right. I got online, and I think this is not an exaggeration, it was like, you're 35th in the queue. Nice. And I was like, I didn't even think it was possible for that to happen. So I got through immediately, but there was something going on with my VPN or something. Oh, no. I didn't figure it out, where it needed me to put in my address. And when it says like, you have 10 minutes to get these tickets before they get released. Yep. I had these amazing seats. But it was not registering that I was in America, and it wouldn't let me put in my address. Oof. It was looking for a British address. I still don't know what's going on. I'm freaking out. I'm like sweating. Eventually, the tickets go away. I lose them. So I was like, oh my God. I was like, of course this was going to happen. But then I'm just like, let me try it again. And I don't know what happened. By the grace of God, like, it went through again, and it registered me as American. So it was looking for an American address. My tickets were not quite as good as they were the first time, but that is a very first world problem. And we got them
great seats, by the way.
They were great seats, very reasonable. People talking about paying like thousands of pounds or dollars for these seats. I think we were like under $200 a seat, and they were
maybe incredible. 150, 160. Which, yeah, if you've been to concerts these days, and we were in the 100 section, great seats, very affordable considering what we were going to see.
So, Rich, to that point, was there a British lottery versus a U.S. lottery, or was it just something along the lines of like your credit card address might not have matched what they thought you were at, and that kind of stuff?
I don't know, because I think you could enter to get into the British tickets from any country. It didn't matter. Yeah. Someone at work told me I was on my work computer, and because it's like a global company, that maybe the VPN. I don't really know.
The IP came from somewhere else, probably because it was your work computer, based on wherever their internet is. I'm sure someone's going to fact check me and say I know nothing about what I'm talking about, but something.
Yeah,
like that, probably.
I don't know. I'm dumb. I don't know what I'm talking about. All I know is it didn't work at first, and then it worked the second time. So I don't know what happened, but.
Gotcha. So at this point, you both have tickets. I assume once you get the tickets, you send John a text. You don't call him. We're guys. We don't call each other, right? Usually.
No, never. We would never.
I haven't talked to that gentleman on the phone in literal decades.
Yeah. No, I just think I think I sent him a text, be like, "Hey, is this good?" Like, sarcastically, being like, "We got the tickets," and he was like, "Holy cow!" Yeah. And I was like, "I don't know what the plan is, man, but we got 2 tickets, and we're going to London next summer. So figure it out. We got a year to plan it."
Right. Yeah. Gotcha. So John's obviously super excited. He shows a super excited face. So at this point, the two of you have to work through like, okay, how do we literally get there? So do you guys start thinking through like, hey, is it one and done? Do we do like a whole tour of London? Like, how does that come together? Like in terms of like what you want to sightsee or whatever else?
Well, the wrench in the plan was, of course, which I think you are familiar with, is that my daughter, was trying to get a step on the ride with me. And she said, I really want to go see Disney Paris. And I was like, where is that coming from? I don't even know how are we going to get to Disney Paris? And, she had said if she did a certain thing in school, if I did it by the end of the year, if I made good on it, could we go to Disney Paris? And I was like, I didn't really think she was going to do it. She did it. She did great. I was like, okay, I have to hold up my end of the bargain. I am not going to Europe twice in a summer or in a year because the prices are astronomical, obviously. So I was like, all right, let me talk to Rich and see if he's going to murder me by going, hey, do you care if Charlotte comes with me? Mind you, Richard was there the first time that Charlotte ever walked. So that's how long Richard and I have been friends. The first time my daughter ever walked, Richard was there. with my daughter.
And I told John I would lie to his wife and say she didn't like, if you wanted to pretend that was not the first steps, I was willing to lie forever because I knew how important that was to a family, like a moment for a family. And I was like, I will say I never saw this.
She didn't find out until years later, which is very funny. So
was she upset when she found out, or
she laughed. But and of course, my wife has known Richard for almost 20 years at this point. It'll be 20 years in March. So she's known Rich quite a long time too. They've been friends for a very long time.
Yep.
So in the back of my head, it's okay. We're going to go to London. Maybe I'm going to go to Paris. Let me figure this out. And it was like Rich and I going like, all right, we literally, I think in December had our two computers back to back going, all right, what makes sense here? What date should we go? Where should we go? Again, we've never been to London, so we don't know where to stay.
Yep.
And the other funny thing that we learned when we got to London is everything is about 8 miles away, but it could take 2 hours to get there because London traffic is abysmal. So you take the tube everywhere, or else you're done. You're toast. So you have a lot of planning, and luckily Rich was all over the subway thing. I mean, he learned it in a day and just figured out where we were going every stop, and that was the way we had to do it. My daughter obviously did not have a ticket because we only had 2 tickets, so I had to promise my wife that my daughter was going to be under lock and key in the room while we were at the concert for 5-6 hours. And my daughter again made good on it. I had gotten her this huge Lego set and she put it together, and I told her that she had to send me pictures every 20 minutes.
Wait, hold on a second. She put the Lego set together in the hotel room?
Yes.
How did you get that home?
We put it in the box, and then that's a long story. That's another podcast.
Okay, that'll be part 2 next week. Then not a problem.
It came back with like one piece broken off. I couldn't believe how good we packed this silly thing.
That's impressive.
Yes, very, very funny. So she had to stay there while we did that. She is coming to the New Jersey show along with my brother Jeremy, who Rich referenced before. Jeremy is a huge diehard Oasis fan since he's a young man as well. So the 4 of us are going, and I really wanted my daughter to be a part of this just because it's been such an important band for us for so many years. And she's listened to their songs. She likes their songs. So I think she's going to get a kick out of it. My daughter loves concerts regardless. We go to a lot of stuff. But anyway, to make a very long story short, we did end up going to Paris as well. Rich went to Scotland after our London trip was done. I went to Paris. We went to Disneyland Paris. It was a lot of fun. We did a ton of fun stuff over 8 days, but boy, oh boy, was I tired by the end.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've traveled all over Europe, but let's back up a little bit to the actual concert of Oasis. So planning takes place. You're a few weeks away. All of a sudden, a buddy of yours reaches out and was like, "Hey, do you have a visa?" And you go,
"Great story, Jeff." So I think it was about 10 days before we're about to head out, and you, Jeff, had said, "Hey, I just heard from a friend that you need a visa to go to London," and I was like, "That's absurd. There's no way." Of course, I Google it immediately, and yes, it is in fact very true. I start freaking out. I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" So I alert Rich right away. I go to the website. We go through the process, and it goes, "Yeah, it could take a week. It could take 2 weeks. It could take 3 weeks." I'm like, "We're done. We're not getting to London.
We're screwed at this point."
We do the paperwork, and 90 minutes it comes back and goes, "Yeah, you're approved." And I was like, "Oh, it was a scam. They just wanted my whatever it was, Rich, $20, $30."
Yeah, it took 5 minutes for it to go through on my end.
So first of all, it's such a cash grab. I don't know if it's a scam. It's something that it's like a scam. A scam implies that it wasn't real or like legit, but it was a cash grab by whatever government. We're not going to name them here because obviously we don't.
No, I want to go back, and we're still allowed to go back for 2 years. So I'm not gonna say which government.
Yes, that's fine. So you get to the paperwork. You thought it could be a fiasco. Apparently, it's. Did they try to charge you for expedited visa? Because that would have been the real scam there.
I don't think so.
And where do they even check it? Because no one ever. Is it just electronic when they scan?
I think it's electronic, and nobody ever checks it. Nobody ever.
Was it attached to your passport, like digitally, or your flight ticket, or something?
I think it hooks to your passport, so that when your passport's scanned, it knows that you have a visa. Yeah.
Gotcha. Otherwise, they would have charged you with $100 at the gate, probably, or something.
I would assume they just wouldn't let us in. That was my assumption, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. Okay, so we get through the visa issues, and at this point, let's fast forward to the concert. So, day of the show, obviously, your daughter is putting together her. She's a master builder. She's building her Legos in the hotel room. The two of you guys go to the building. So, this is your first time in the infamous Wembley Arena. Lots of events over the years have happened. Do you have any first impressions of the building? Like, does it feel like a standard stadium you've seen before, or do you have any nostalgia to it, or is it just kind of like, okay, whatever, let's just walk in?
So great question, and there's sort of two viewpoints there, and I think Rich may agree. But we met this lovely couple in the tube going to the show. They're huge Oasis fans. They're from London. They couldn't get over the fact that we were coming from New York City to see the show in London. They were really excited. They were very adorable, and it was really funny. But I said to the husband, "Oh my God, I'm so excited to see Wembley." And he kind of went, "Why?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's iconic." And he goes, "It's kind of a dump." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's nothing special." And I was like, okay, that's fine. That could mean something to so many people, right?
Sure.
When you get out and you see the quite literal sea of people, 80,000 plus people walking to the stadium, it's breathtaking, it's jaw-dropping, it's incredible. It was so neat to see thousands of fans going up to the stadium from the outside, which is really it's on sort of raised up on these steps, and it's really beautiful from the outside. And seeing the signs, Rich and I are just getting like all jacked up because we're like, "Oh my God, we're here, we really did this, it's incredible." And then you kind of get into the stadium, and I'll let Rich kind of take over from there.
Well, I mean, my friends were making fun of me when they asked me about the concert, and I was just like, it was really easy to get in and out of Wembley. Like, we were really impressed by how organized it was. It was like,
incredible.
You have this ticket, go to the yellow line, do this. Like, we were considering there was literally, like John said, thousands of people walking in one direction. We got in within 5 minutes. It was like, it was immaculate. Like, everything about London was so well run. Like, from the tube, you could actually, I come from the New York subways a lot. Like, you could actually hear the announcements going on in the tube. That was nice. Getting into Wembley. Yeah, Wembley itself is not like that cool, like interesting of a building, but like it's nicer than MetLife. Like, MetLife is one of the most boring buildings ever.
But that's a pretty low bar, though. I mean, when they replaced John Cena at MetLife Stadium, they could have done better. I feel like they stopped trying and just kind of did what they could, the bare minimum. But
it's just a bunch of it's a bunch of concrete, right?
Basically, yeah.
But the really neat thing was, again, speaking of iconic, locations, to see the I'm trying to think of what you call that, the retractable roof.
Yes.
On this insanely massive stadium was pretty breathtaking. It was pretty nuts. Obviously, it was open. It was a gorgeous night in July. But to get to see that in a stadium, I'm not used to that because all of the concerts that we've seen over the last 30 years are open air stadiums in our open air stadium MetLife Arena or stadium. So to see that was really, really neat. Like Rich said, nothing special about the stadium, which I was kind of bummed about. I wanted to be sort of culturally interesting, and it was a lot of concrete.
Were there any banners or anything for any kind of like local football teams or anything, or not really?
Not really.
Not so much, yeah. But I will say everybody that we met there was super nice. Like we were a little bit not concerned, but we were just like, you see like games at like soccer stadiums or football games where it's like there's just hooligans and it's like rowdy and it's insane. So we were just on guard, being like, okay, this could be a little wild. But everybody there was just so happy that Oasis was back together, that the vibe was incredible. These guys that were sitting in front of us, they heard us talking with our American accents, and the guy was same thing as on the tube. He's like, "Did you come here all the way for this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, man, we love Oasis." And this guy just looked at me and he came and dapped me up and gave me a big hug.
It was really funny.
The whole night they were just we were singing to each other and stuff.
Nice.
It was amazing. And the other thing that was funny was two girls were again heard our accent and was like, "You're from America?" And John asked me, he's like, "Okay, if you couldn't hear our accents, could you tell we were American by what we look?" And they were like, "Yeah." And we were like, "Okay, well, what gave it away?" And they were like, "You're wearing baseball hats." Nobody in England wears baseball caps. And we looked around and you're like, and it's an Oasis show, so everyone's wearing bucket hats, which I'm not going to wear a bucket hat ever. But even all around London, no one that's local is wearing.
Never noticed it until she said it. And then all of a sudden I was like, "Oh yeah, that's interesting." It was really interesting.
Yeah. culturally it's very different. So
Yeah.
last question about the stadium before we get into the concert. So you guys walk in, and I assume you guys probably ate and drank while you were there, right? You probably had a beer or a soda and
Yeah.
food. So everyone, for the most part, I guess that listens to this podcast, since we are 96% American streamers or listeners, are probably pretty familiar with what you'd expect at an American arena, right? You have hamburgers, they have hot dogs, pretzels, either Pepsi or Coke based on what they have. What kind of food did they have there? What kind of food did they offer at Wembley Stadium?
Nothing crazy from what I found. Like I ended up getting some giant hot dog. But I was surprised there wasn't that many options other than, I think there was burgers and hot dogs.
Interesting.
I was annoyed because they only had Pepsi Zero, which is disgusting. I didn't want to drink that much beer, so I was like, I just need a soda to wash this hot dog down. And it was Pepsi Zero, which is, I hope they're not a sponsor of the podcast, Jeff, because it's gross.
But they could be. I mean, if somebody from a PepsiCo organization wants to, we can definitely.
Wait, let me do this better.
Yes,
Hold
please.
on.
Okay.
So when I went to get food, I had a Stella Artois, which was absolutely delicious. They had a wonderful deal that night. It's my favorite beer. And they had a wonderful deal that night where you could have 4 Stella Artois for 28 pounds, which amounts to, let's say, about $32. I thought the English folks were taking them, all 4, to give to their friends. They were actually drinking all of them themselves, each of the pints, heavy pints, by the way. So if Stella ever wants to be a sponsor of the podcast, we are huge fans of the beer.
So I appreciate that. Besides being one of my lead art designer and one of my executive producers, he's also a head sales guy for me. So John, thank you as always. I appreciate it.
And I want to say one interesting thing, because you made me think of it and I hadn't thought of it.
Yes.
Enormous Indian population in London. A lot of vegetarianism. I am a vegetarian of 20 years. I had a really delicious some sort of veggie burger that was really, really good for that sort of locale. So I thought that was really interesting because you don't really find that in the States for the most part.
Nice. So they had diversity and they had different types of food depending upon your interests and needs, which is great. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys, that's the food you had some drinks. Okay. So you get to your seats, right? And as Rich had said, you guys made friends with some locals, let's say, in terms of they recognize based on your attire as well as your accent that you're not from the area.
Yeah.
At this point, I assume you guys both just going nuts in terms of your excitement, right? You're very excited. Oasis is about to come on. You're hoping they don't get into a fight before the show starts, and it doesn't happen.
That was a very real concern, by the way.
Oh, I know. When they announced it a year ago, I think everyone was like, "Are they going to make it till next summer? Is this going to work?" Somehow it did, and I guess take me through kind of you guys' experiences during the concert. So, were there songs you absolutely loved? Did it live up to your expectations? Were you guys like smiling at each other?
Can we actually
finally made it together?
Can we take a step back?
Absolutely.
There's something really wonderful about that locale.
Yes.
They have a curfew that is very early for folks like me who love to go to bed early. So, Rich, what was the curfew? 10:15, 10:30?
I think it's like 11, or 10:30. But yeah.
Okay.
So the Oasis was done not that
So,
late after 10.
We were so excited because we're like, oh my God, this concert's going to get out at a reasonable hour. They're going to play, I think, 28 songs. But the opening act was a gentleman named Richard Ashcroft, who many people might remember from the band The Verb, who did Bittersweet Symphony. Massive hit in the 90s. A very successful solo artist in London or England. I don't want to say around the world, but in London.
Yeah.
And those fans couldn't have been more excited to see him. And that was really neat. They knew every word to all 8 of his songs that he played that night. And that was really fun to watch. And it sort of like enveloped us, and we kind of knew what we were getting into with how Oasis was going to be, because once Oasis hit, those people knew every single word to every single song of all 28 songs. It was nuts.
Yeah. We won't say the title because, Jeff, you said to not swear, but they come out to a song called Effin' in the Bushes, which is an orchestral song. It's in the movie Snatch. If you've ever seen the movie Snatch, it's amazingly used in Snatch in the end fight scene. It's just a really cool song, and that's what, spoiler alert, like they come out to every night. And it's just like, if you needed any more like help getting jacked up, that does it for you. And on the screen, they're putting like headlines from over the years about the brothers fighting and stuff, and will they reconcile and blah blah blah. And then they come out like arm in arm, like real true brothers. And it's like, and then they don't BS. They talk a little bit. I couldn't understand them because their accent is so thick. I literally could not understand what Liam was saying most of the time. They don't really do much in between songs. They just rip through in a greatest hit set for 2 hours and like 15 minutes.
Nice.
And they were so incredible. I did not sit down one time. Again, as an old man that does like to sit down at concerts, I stood up the entire time and was like,
awesome.
Let's go. I think we knew the words to pretty much every song. We know all the B-sides. We know, and again, it wasn't like they were playing the hits. They were playing the songs that everybody wants them to play. They weren't like, we got new albums, so we got to do these 3 tracks so you can go to the bathroom during it. It was like, it was front to back, like bangers. Like if you look at their encore is like 4 of their biggest songs, and yet you just spent 2 hours hearing great songs.
And Rich made a funny comment about that when we're like 2 hours in. He goes, they haven't even played their 4 biggest hits yet. And I was like, you're right, that's nuts. Yeah. And like at that point, the energy that we have emitted has been crazy, and we still haven't heard the 4 biggest songs, which are Wonderwall, Champagne Supernova. I mean, these are massive hits of the last 3 decades.
Yeah, I will say if anybody wants to get a feeling of the vibe, like just go on social media and look up Cigarettes and Alcohol, them playing it on this tour, because like everyone in the audience, in the crowd, starts bouncing, and every video in every city that they've been to so far is incredible. To watch 90,000 people all doing the same thing for this awesome song is like, even if you're not an Oasis fan, like it's pretty cool.
Nice.
I'm biased, but it's pretty cool.
So it sounds like, based on both of your comments about the show, that it more than lived up to the hype. Like after all these years, going to Wembley, going to see them together, and you guys being together for the show, like it was, the ROI was there, right? The personal ROI, the energy. You were super happy with the result.
Their voices sounded great. The sound was great. The set list was amazing. I spent way too much money on merchandise. I never buy anything at concerts anymore, but I think I spent over $300 between a couple of things, like between going to the store and the merch table. And I'm not at all sad that I did that. So like for me, it more than lived up to the hype. And I'm, like John said, I'm psyched that we're going again in 2 weeks.
Nice.
As Rich said, I am not a merch guy either. I don't need t-shirts. My wife basically said she was going to murder me if I didn't get a shirt. So I had to make sure that I got a shirt while we're there. It says Wembley in the back. I was like, I needed something that actually said Wembley to prove that my very good friend and I are maniacs to travel thousands of miles to go see this concert. They sounded amazing. They were so good. The energy was so fun. Going to see it with those fans was so amazing. And I think, like Rich said, going to see them in 2 weeks is going to be a completely different experience, because I don't think the American audience is nearly, I don't think they're going to know some of the lesser known songs as well. So I'm interested to see what the difference is with the audiences. That being said, I would assume the set list will be very, very similar, if not exactly the same. Totally great. So to get to hear those songs again is going to be really fun. And I think Rich and I said it, but like, we could finally die happy men that we got to see this band play all those songs in the way we wanted them to. They're back together. They sound amazing. And to actually get through that, like literally decades of like all these weird things where we never got to see them together. We got to see them together, and we're going to get to see them together again in our home state. So we don't have to travel too far. I could travel 17 minutes down the road. I'm very excited about that. And to get to see it with my brother and my daughter is going to be awesome, because I never got to see them with my brother. So the 4 of us getting to do that together, I am so grateful to have that in my life. I think that's just awesome.
And if I could just say one more thing about Wembley, is that I can't verify this fact, but it's going around on social media. I think Wembley posted it. They said that Oasis fans have bought 250,000 pints of beer a night at Wembley Stadium, which is incredibly. And they have a chart where it shows that Taylor Swift fans only drank 40,000 pints. So they like went. And I think the next times
closest was Coldplay, which was less than half of Oasis. I think it was like 130,000 pints.
So let me ask this: if either of you guys know the drinking age in London?
I'm going to say it's 18. 16. I don't know. My daughter, who's 14, kept being offered alcohol, so I don't think they care.
You got it, Jeff?
I'm looking it up right now. The drinking age appears to be 18.
18.
So,
Okay.
and again, not to poo-poo your stat there, but I would imagine the average Oasis fan is probably significantly older than the average Taylor Swift fan.
Sure, but
very much
I'm still proud of our guys. I'm still proud of those fans. You know, when I saw that, I was like,
250,000. I mean, that's
and again,
crazy.
That's a lot.
I didn't see any shenanigans, any
No.
any roughhousing. It was just
No.
a bunch of 85,000 drunk people having the time of their life.
They just wanted to have
So
fun.
that's an average of 3 pints per person, give or take, right?
That sounds low.
That,
Well, if you do the math,
that does sound very low.
If you have 80,000 people, the times
know.
3 is 240,000.
Yep.
So the math is just mathing here, I think. Maybe
You know what,
times
Jeff?
two or
Let's not worry about averages with those fans.
All I know is we kept seeing guys walk up the stairs with 4 or 8 beers, and I was like, "Sir, there's 2 songs left in this tour, and in this show," and they didn't care. They were just like, "Yep, we're going."
And Rich, let's also be cognizant of how we got out of there, because we were so impressed with the security. If you want to tell them that, we couldn't believe how good the security was.
Go for it.
Leaving the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we talked a big game. We're like, we're staying till the very end of the show. We're going to stay till the end. And then we see 80,000 people. We're like, oh, man, I don't want to get on the tube with all these people. It's just too much waiting. So we knew the last song was, again, spoiler alert, but Champagne Supernova, which is a long, like 6.5-minute song. So I was like, John, I just want to hear 30 seconds of the song, and then we can go. Let's run. So we got out of there real fast. Everybody had a lot of people had the same idea as us. We kind of booked it to the tube. There was 1 million security guards with signs saying "Stop, go," because they want to stop people from overloading where the train's gonna load. But we kind of beat all that because we were ahead of everybody. We got on a tube in 2 minutes. Was probably the first or second train out. Again, we missed the last song, which is kind of a bummer. But I saw videos after the fact of the people waiting for the tube for an hour, and I was like, I don't love Champagne Supernova that much. I was happy to be. It was a long day and a long night, and it was great. And it was just at that point, it was nice to get home and be in the hotel.
I think we got home in 25 minutes, which is absurd considering how many people we had to contend against.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
The security was A+, amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And again, like Rich said, no nonsense. Nobody was being crazy. Everybody just wanted to have fun, and that was just a beautiful thing to watch. So it was an experience, and one that I said to Rich as we were there, I think, I don't get very jealous in life. There's not too many things where I look and I go, oh, that should have been me, or I should have done that. But when Rich kind of went, I think I got to go to London. I think we got to go to London. I saw in my mind's eye, I saw Rich at the show without me, and I was like, no, I got to be there. We got to do this.
Right.
So I am so happy that we did it, because we had an absolute blast.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you had a great time. Sounds like there was no second guessing. You guys were excited that you did it. It sounds like it was best case scenario and stuff like that. And it sounds like going again to MetLife in the next week or two, John, at least for you, you're most looking forward to being able to share that experience with one of your brothers and your daughter, right? Seems like they'll have to kind of do it all over again with additional people.
It's
looking forward to.
It'll be fun, because Rich and I sort of know the score this time, right? And we know when they're coming out. We're probably not going to go see the opening band because we don't care as much. But to get to see it with, Rich is technically family. He's my 5th brother, or my 4th brother rather. I'm one of 4 brothers, and he's the 5th. All my brothers have known Richard for 33 years.
Don't worry, John. We'll fix that in post production. Not a problem. Keep going.
So the fact that it's going to be our family together, the Germains plus Rich, who's technically a Germain, is going to be super fun. I'm super excited for it. And it's just going to be a fun time, a lot less stress, because we know MetLife. We've been going to MetLife for a decade and a half. So this time I feel like we could let loose a little bit more and not have to worry about all the craziness.
But that's where the stress comes in, though, at the MetLife Stadium. I'll say about a week ago with the Jonas Brothers, and leaving the stadium when everyone else did, it took probably 45 minutes to an hour to leave the parking lot.
I don't do that. That's not happening.
No, we're skipping.
Don't tell John that, because he doesn't know he's going to have to stay till the end of Champagne Supernova.
You missed it the first time. This time you have to see it.
Yeah, we probably won't.
You don't want
I
little
want
Charlotte
to, but I don't want to.
You don't want Charlotte to say, "But that's my favorite song. I missed it."
Charlotte has been going to concerts for she's 14, 7-8 years now. And she knows, she's just like her old man. She's like, all right, we're leaving right at this song, right? So we can get out of here. And
right.
she's She's very, very good at knowing when we're ready to rock. She knows when we go to MSG, we stay all the way until the end because MSG is not such a cluster. But stadium shows, yeah, we have to leave because we do not want to sit in endless traffic. No offense towards our home state, but MetLife does not have the best traffic plan to get out of the stadium when there's 80,000 people there.
Oh no, there's opportunities there. There's like one path to get out, and you better put your GPS on because it's not taking you out the way that you want to get out. So you got to eventually follow it on the turnpike or however it takes you, I guess, right?
No, yeah, Rich is more than welcome to sit through Champagne Supernova. If we take separate cars, I will not be staying for that. I'll listen on the way home. I'll put the track on Amazon Music.
Awesome. So with that said, guys, I do appreciate all your time. I do feel like I was there with you guys, just kind of hearing your experiences, the build up, the actual show, and obviously the excitement for future Oasis shows as well. Jon and Rich, anything else you'd like to say or share or promote before we call it a day?
I would just say, you can look me up on Instagram. It's not that interesting, but I'm there. And go listen to Oasis, everybody. Like, everybody knows Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger, but just give another listen because, man, they got some bangers. Go listen to the songs The Master Plan and Acquiesce, and those are on the B-sides, but they're just as good, if not better, than their singles. So that's all I got.
Great point. If I could be the silly 43-year-old tourist, if you haven't been to London and if you haven't been to Paris, go. I know it's expensive. I know it's crazy. We had the absolute time of our lives. The people there are absolutely lovely. And it's just a wonderful experience. You certainly don't have to go to Wembley, but go just to experience the culture because we just had the absolute best time of our lives.
Awesome. And just a reminder to everybody, Jon his only social is LinkedIn. So if you want to look up Jon Germain on LinkedIn, feel free, add him as a connect or a contact, and let's hope for the best here. Maybe something happens. Get into his LinkedIn DMs, and we'll hope for the best here. Cool. So Rich, Jon, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Obviously, love hearing about concerts, but more than the concert, loved hearing about your experience getting there, your experience there and afterwards. And obviously, following up eventually about if you do ever end up hearing Champagne Supernova live, or if that's just going to be something that you're going to live without, I guess. That's how it goes.
The one that got away.
That's it. Twice.
Yeah.
With that said, thank you everyone once again for listening. As a reminder, our Instagram is at Everybody Has a Story Pod. TikTok for the show is at Everybody Has a Story Pod. My personal Instagram is at Seltzer77. The YouTube for the show is at Everybody Has a Story Pod. You can reach the show directly via email at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. For all things Jeff Seltzer, you can always check me out over at jeffseltzer.com. We're on all podcast platforms, so please make sure to tell your mom, your uncle, your uncle's mom, your mom's uncle to come check us out. Video on Spotify and YouTube, audio on both those locations and everywhere else. With that said, this will probably be the last episode for a few weeks. I'd originally planned on taking the month of August off, but as you can see, I didn't. So I do need a little time off, so I'll probably be off in September, back in late September, early October at some point, and have some really cool guests that I'm currently lining up. So follow the socials to find out when we're coming back, but we got more excitement ahead of us. With that said, take care and have a great, great day. Thanks for listening.
Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. 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 Everybody